Next example I'd like to take a look at is titles for a property. Specifically real estate. And first, a little bit on valuation. I think I may have mentioned this before, but there were 5.2 million houses sold, and the American Real Estate Association, National Real Estate Association, their average is $3,241 for a title search. You compare this to Estonia, which their price is about 22 US, maybe 23. The dollar's changed a little bit. That's converting to euros. So if you say that you multiply those two, there's about 19 billion in potential value out there. That's only a piece of the picture. The other piece of the picture that if you want to do this, you want to trace through is liens on properties. And this is one of those ones that would allow you to get this converted quicker, is because getting liens done. Say you have a house and you want to remodel your kitchen, and you're going to have new cabinets put in. That's a cabinet maker. You're going to have flooring. That's the flooring person. You're going to have some electrical done. That's the electrician. You're going to have some door over here put in. Okay, that's a different carpenter. There's a general contractor. Okay, there's probably a number of people. And when you get done, when you start this, they get to put a lien on the entire house for you to pay. And then when you get done, you pay off the general contractor, and he has to acknowledge that he received payment, but that doesn't erase the lien, and then he has to pay all of these guys. Okay? Every single one of them, and every single one of them has to say that they released the lien, okay, at which point he releases the lien on your property. Now, in a perfect world, this would happen without difficulty. However, I will point out to you that lots of times, this guy over here now has left and moved to Indiana, and you can't find him, and he can't release the lien, and you're stuck there holding a lien on a piece of property that's paid for, and now you have to go to court. It's ugly. Okay? So, what you'd like is a system that doesn't just take care of searching the titles. But once the title is clear, if there are liens that are added or removed from the property, and when payments occur to cover those liens, that this information is tracked, and that each one of the people involved has some sort of an app that allows them to say, yes, I received my money, I released the lien on this piece of it. That, if there is a timeout of a certain amount of time where the money has been sent but it's not been released, that it automatically goes to some sort of arbitration to resolve this. That a third-party arbitrator can say, yes, it has been paid or it hasn't been paid, okay? To restart a clock on it, and to evaluate whether or not you're done, because you'd like to be able to someday sell the house and have a clear title. And all of this has to interact with, yes, the bank, because you probably have a mortgage, or you may have borrowed the money for doing this. So they're involved in this too. And this is a multi-signature digital problem, and it involves payments. So it isn't just, did you pay for it? It's like, are you paying for it? Did they do the work correctly? Are you signing off that the work is acceptable or not? Okay, are they going to have to come in and remediate? So this is a big, nasty, complicated process, but it involves payments. Now, before we get to that point, we've got these titles, and you notice this costs a lot of money. Some of that is title insurance. We've talked about the value of the insurance and whether or not blockchains could completely replace the insurance industry. But the title here insurance is errors and omissions, because at least in the state of Wyoming, about 60% of the titles are still on paper. They actually go in a book and they turn the pages, and it's handwritten. In Georgia, it's 82%. So all over the United States, they have all these things on paper still. This is just the surface rights. And if you're going to deal with this properly, one of the driving factors in all of this is, remember, the bank creates a loan, but when the bank does a loan, generally speaking, they take the property and they strip it of the underground rights. So here's your house, and by the time you actually sign the mortgage, all the things underneath the house, okay, oil and gas rights, are now transferred to the bank, and you didn't even know that happened. But the question is now, is the data for the bank actually searchable, that it owns these rights so that it can sell them or do something with them or borrow against them itself? Can it collateralize that asset? So it isn't just these things. Now, of course, there are other rights in some of our western states, like, there's rain. And do you have a right to the water that is coming off of there? Water rights. And in some places, there is also the question of sunshine rights. Is if you have solar panels on your roof over here and the sun is shining on them, and somebody builds the building over here and you don't get any sunshine, have they disturbed your rights to your sunshine? So there's a lot of stuff involved here. And this is a complicated contract. And the data entry is going to be hellacious. But remember, $19 billion a year in potential value, just from one category. So title property is really important. Security is really important. There has been a rash, I wouldn't say rash, there have been cases of identity theft where somebody goes on vacation. Meanwhile, the movers show up to their house, strip the entire house. The house goes up for sale. It gets sold. They come back from vacation 3 weeks later, and there's somebody new living in their house. How did this happen? Well, the identity thieves came in, stripped their house, sold their house, took the money, cleared out the bank account that they got from it, and they're gone. And they come back to, wow, what happened? Okay? So there's some good reasons for adding some security to this system too. That the people actually holding the title are the people that actually should be holding the title, and they have to release that title. Now, this is just one kind of title. We're going to talk about vehicle titles as well. But you can see in this one, we've got certain different stages. We've got other considerations that we may want to buy, sell, and trade. And the whole thing is bogged down with lots of paperwork. There's the paperwork here. But remember the bank? If you go and fill out one of these forms, what happens is it gets done in about 6 copies. The pressure paper that you write on that you can't really read afterwards. Those pieces of paper get faxed across the world, probably to a data center in Dubai. There are a bunch of them that all the major banks have. They enter it, they group these loans together into a maxi, and then turn around and they sell it. So they collateralize the loans on the stock market. And you'd like to be able to assess the risk of this maxi on the stock market on an individual basis, because there are systemic risks involved. And you'd like to be able to price it fairly. But here's what's going on under the covers. Now, the people that group the loans together, they re-enter the same data again. That's not very efficient. And then they group it together in a bigger thing and they re-enter the data again. Usually the data is entered about 4 times with, all those wonderful things like mistakes. The last time I had a mortgage loan, we set up automatic payment for the loan so we wouldn't have to worry about it from our account. 2 months later, we find out that it hasn't been paid because they transferred the loan and they transposed 2 digits in our account number, so the automatic payment stopped. And they're coming after us for a bad credit rating because we didn't pay for 2 months. And, we're out in the toolies. We're paying no attention to this because, of course, we set it up so it was all automatic payment so we wouldn't have to worry about it. So I rearranged some things and paid off the loan. And this made the person who underwrote the loan really mad. So mad that they called me and cursed me out and asked who I'd gotten my new loan from. And I said, no one. I paid it off. And there was a long pause from them as they said, I've never heard of that before. So, yeah. But a good understanding of all the details in this, including when commissions get paid or not paid, if it gets paid off, and how those commissions are paid, because all of these things, all the commissions, all the transfers, all the liens, throughout the lifespan of this, the titles, all of that stuff is payments, and smart contracts could implement it. And when you look at a particular piece of property, when we're talking about a title is a document, okay, with, fancy stuff on it. And that document could now be a PDF. You could take a hash of the PDF, store the hash in a non-fungible token, okay, and be able to take this and put this out on IPFS or Amazon S3 or some other medium. And suddenly, instead of having a paper document that you have to worry about in a flood and did it get wet and destroyed, suddenly you get this reliable storage that you can check, look up, search, reproduce, and can believe and will stand up in court. And there are laws in a number of states already that would allow this kind of an arrangement with the NFTs and the document to be considered a reliable title, like the state of Washington. And between these things, this is the kind of a system that you want for titles for real estate. And there's a lot of pieces here. This is a complicated thing. But, there's a prize. So that is titles for real estate. What about other kinds of titles like cars?